All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another Let's Play for ThreatGEN Red versus Blue, the cybersecurity gaming simulation platform. We'll be playing as the blue team today. And in this platform, you get to be offensive, you get to be defensive, you get to learn cybersecurity skills in an actual fun and interesting way. If you watched last week's stream, you saw me absolutely get handedly by the by the AI. But I'm hoping to perform better. Joined with us is Clint Dungeon, lead developer for ThreatGEN. Clint, thanks for being here.
Well, I kind of have to be here. It's a ThreatGEN broadcast now.
It really is. It is a real thing. All the socials are down there on the bottom. So we're going to get into it. But any opening thoughts before we dig in, Clint?
I think that for anybody viewing, just kind of realize that this is kind of a live dry run where we're going to be streaming these Let's Plays a lot, not only with Gerald and myself, Gerry and myself. I forget, I know you better now. But with both of us playing, maybe I'll stream some, he'll stream some, but also with guests from the community playing as well. And I think the main purpose of this is really, I think while people are viewing this, it's important to realize that we're not just streaming this just to show people some game. The whole purpose of this is to gain real world cybersecurity insight, whether you're interested in the red team or the blue team, through this simulation. So we're kind of demoing the game, but it's a game, but it's also a cybersecurity simulation. We're demoing that, but we're also doing this during these streams to show people the consequences or the benefits of different things that we do, because this does mimic real life. So I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely. So feel free to jump in chat, say what's going on. I see you in there watching. Let's dig into the game. All right, Clint. So we are going to be the blue team. We get to pick what organization we want. I'm feeling fancy and wanting to do random. Any concerns with going random on our infrastructure?
No, that's always fun. That way, we don't know what to expect. We're kind of it mimics real life. We've just been hired and we don't really know what our network is.
Exactly. We just been brought on site over the new CISO, and we've been told deal with it. Okay, guys, like any other ThreatGEN Red versus Blue game start, we get a little bit of an intro on what we're doing here, and there is an explanation of what win conditions are. So essentially, in this platform, this simulation platform, we are defending our organization, and adversaries, AI, are actively attacking. So each turn, it's going to, the environment's going to change. Our threat landscape is going to change. So we're going to do our best to defend ourselves and protect the organization we've been hired to protect. Okay. Again, if we have at any point any questions, we'll be able to hit that question mark to get Wikipedia-like information on what something is. And let's just dig into it. I feel like this is one of those platforms that's better served by experience. Okay, let's see what we got here. Looks like we're working at an oil and gas organization. Good morning, Rolando Brooks. Good morning, Devin Jackson. Chris Word, good to see you. Good morning. Guys, I'm the CISO at an oil and gas refinery, and they got nothing in here. I have been given $50,000. You can see at the top left for my budget, and 3 analysts on my team. We'll say 1 senior analyst and 2 junior analysts. Ready to rock and roll. Okay, so Clint, I just got to tell you, as a cybersecurity professional, when I come into this organization that has nothing, really the first couple of things I'm thinking are policies and procedures. And I'm actually gonna, if you're on stream, I'm gonna tell you something in a second that is how I feel about it in real life. I would do asset inventory because it's the #1 control in your SANS CIS 20, now 18 controls. You need to know what you have in order to even know how to protect it. So I'm just gonna do that anyways. And going back to the tree, really, policies and procedures are going to unlock this skill tree right here, 2-factor auth. Encrypting IR, very important. I will say, though, policies and procedures are critically important because they define what the norms are at an organization. But sometimes when you get into an organization and they don't have, say, two-factor authentication, you need to make that a priority, right? Like writing a policy that says you're going to have two-factor auth. Yes, you should do that, but getting it in place technically, putting that control in there and limiting the damage of, potential damage is absolutely critical.
You
You
know,
could also make the argument. Go ahead.
yeah, I like your comment, and your argument is valid because, and I'll just say from a developer perspective, originally we set out to try to enforce good behavior with unlocking certain aspects, so teach you good behavior by enforcing it. But there is an aspect of, say, for example, I agree, two-factor authentication, you don't need to write a policy before implementing. So I do see some development changes on the horizon.
Yeah. It is interesting. Also, I got to tell you guys, we only have 2 analysts left to work. And, policies and procedures take 2 analysts. Gateway firewall takes 1 analyst. So we can't do both. So you really have to make those choices. Not having a gateway firewall is nauseating, but we need to get to that two-factor authentication. So let's do this. Okay. We've used all our resources. This is our network environment that we are responsible for protecting. Let's go ahead and end the turn. What's up, Darcel? I'm glad you're enjoying that GRC course. I've got a lot of great feedback on it. I hope it's delivering value to you. Okay, guys, it's day 2. We came in, we got our coffee. Let's check how the team's doing. They're still busy here. And you can see in the action log that they're continuing to work, right? So this actually does mimic real life, guys. You don't just like snap your fingers and have policies and procedures. You need to understand what your environment looks like, what regulatory obligations you have, what the overall governance structure is of the environment, and what someone actually has to write the policies. Then it has to go through review. General counsel needs to look at it, et cetera, et cetera. So this is pretty realistic that it takes time. Also,
And that's
with
the way
acid
time is represented here, right? And in this simulation, we represent time in the aspect of turns, because in real life, something can take weeks. So it's very difficult to represent weeks if you have a real-time strategy game. So that's why we chose to go with a turn-based strategy here,
Yeah, I love it.
or format.
And I want to give a quick little shout out, since we have a few minutes here, to Dr. Monshine. It's good to see him. He was one of the professors in my master's computer science program out of Massachusetts. Great guy. Good to see you there. All right, guys, since we do have a minute and a half before our work day is over, I do want to take a minute and look at our environment really quickly, okay? Because this is something you really should pay attention to. This environment that we've been hired to protect looks like it has some kind of infrastructure IT services right here, right? We've got a domain controller, mail server. We have what appears to be some endpoints, right? So we've got, Carl in accounting and Clint Bow Dungeon right here in R&D. Got to look out for that guy, always standing up his remote access stuff.
Look at that. I do have my name in there. By the way, a lot of these host names are generated randomly, but we did put some Easter eggs in there. I'm one. I'm a big
I love it. Very appropriate for you. So, LinkedIn user, is this game free? Nope. This game is not free. Clint, you want to speak to it while I continue to think about how I'm going to do this?
Yep. So this is the professional version of this simulation platform is available at threatgen.com. And there are different price points. There's different subscription levels. We have it for individuals as well as for organizations. Somewhere in there, you can see the website. I thought we had a website on here somewhere. Either way, it's threatgen.com. And then if you just want a little community version preview of it, you can get it for $15 on Steam. But the professional version has all the bells and the whistles and the extra scenarios and all of that.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks. Great question too, by the way. Carrie, yep, you can get it a couple bucks, 15 bucks, I guess, on Steam. And obviously the platform is going to have a little bit more functionality. You can see right here, you're asking where the game link is. I've got it on the chat here. Where is it?
I'll post in chat both of them.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to end my turn.
I don't know if it's posting over to both
LinkedIn and YouTube. Yeah. It should be. It should be in the show description below, both on LinkedIn and YouTube. I've put it in the show description, so you should be able to find it there as well. Okay. Also, hey chat, I just want to for those of you. Oh, we've got one person in there right now. I want to know if this looks better or not. Let me know in chat if having it with us on the side looks better. Okay. We are still working away at this work. So it seems like a huge investment, couple different days of work, but unlocking the skill tree is critically important, and unlocking this skill tree is critically important. So essentially, we are putting in the time to unlock the actual functionalities that we need. So let's go ahead and end the turn.
Don't forget about our firewall. Remember, this game starts you off with not even a firewall. Don't forget about that.
Yes. So our asset inventory is complete, which is perfect. And our policies and procedures are developed, which is perfect. So just looking at our action tree, we now have unlocked vulnerability assessment, mapping, certification, and we've also unlocked a lot of skills here, two-factor auth or capabilities. SDLC, security awareness, which I would argue is very valuable. But Clint brings up a good point. Let's get that gateway firewall in post haste. So we're going to put a gateway firewall in, and personally, I like, as I mentioned, okay, so you may think putting a SIM in is the next possible bet, but I think when you think of a SIM, guys, think about the NIST cybersecurity framework, right? Like you've got these 5 different categories: identify, protect, left of boom, before bad stuff happens; detect, respond, recover, right of boom, after bad stuff happens. I really want to shore up my defenses before I start worrying about detecting stuff. And this is a philosophical decision that people would argue with me on if you have a different philosophical perspective on it, but that's okay. I'm going to be doing 2FA, which is super important to me. In fact, when I play this game on the defensive side, I feel like I'm pretty consistent with my first couple moves. It's like chess. I have my opening moves, and that's what I do. All right, Clint. Just to finish really quick, we've got our endpoints. We've got our DMZ space, which is between the internet and this network diagram kind of appears different than what I would envision, but you could see this is our DMZ space and a terminal server for end users to remote into. We've got our Clint, can you talk about these 2 different segments over here, since you're more of the industrial control system person?
Yeah, so if you look at the left side, now this is a flat network right now. If you look at it, there's no network segmentation, but you do have two segments or 2 sections to the industrial control systems network. On the left side, you have the DCS, or the distributed control system. Oh, sorry, up above where he's kind of circling there. That's basically your process control network. That's where you're going to have your terminals, your human machine interfaces, your SCADA servers, if you have SCADA, and here we do. Down in the layer 1 and layer 0 down, we have the plant environment on the left, which is the distributed control system, which controls the plant operations, like the refinery here. And I guess we're in a pipeline, so we have a little bit of a refinery there. And on the right side, you have the SCADA network, which is going to remotely, that's your remote devices, such as your remote, your radios and your PLCs, your programmable logic controllers that control functionality of the pipeline valves, etc.
Okay. And also, you could see this right here. Like, think about a pipeline that's like way out in the middle of nowhere, Alaska. That radio communication that controls that pipeline, that's what this represents. So this is like a distant thing. All right, let's end our turn.
While he's doing that, while you're ending your turn, I do want to point out to people that are watching, especially on LinkedIn, we did say this would be a 1.8 preview. However, I got sick this weekend and didn't release 1.8 to the portal that Gerry is playing right now. So the 1.8 will actually drop tomorrow, and then we'll do another live stream later to preview that.
Yes. Thank you. Good to know, Clint. We will be doing these Let's Play more frequently, as Clint mentioned at the intro. Maybe I'll learn to be more offensive than I already am. Okay, we got our gateway firewall installed. I want to give a shout out to Kyle and Ian Olua If I butchered that, I'm sorry. Talking about how the side layout makes more sense. So Clint, going forward, we'll probably throw ourselves on the side here. Okay, so our firewall was built, which you can now see over here, right? This firewall came in. That wasn't here before. Very nice. Continuing to bolster our infrastructure, we have to wait 2 more turns for 2FA because here's another reality, guys. Okay, this is real life. Just to say 2FA is like, yes, maybe you could technically implement it in one day because you're using a cloud service, but what makes sense? Do you use Microsoft Azure MFA? Do you use Okta? Do you use Duo? You literally have to go out and do market research and figure out what is the best one for your environment situation, for adoption in the environment, for the cost, right? Maybe Duo is perfect, but they're 4x times what Okta costs, especially after Okta's recent issue, right? So there's a lot of factors at play when you're deciding what solutions to buy. So, these times, yes, they're real because it's not only technical implementation, which a lot of us engineers think of. There's a lot of making the right decision, moving deliberately forward as you build a program. People who just get a lot of money and recklessly build programs, there's often a lot of bad decisions made, right? And then someone else has to come in and clean it up, and it's a hot mess on fire. So I appreciate that ThreatGEN has done this to make it more realistic. Okay, so we've got one person.
Rodeo.
Yes, exactly. We've got one person. We want to maximize our resources, right? Put those people to work. We could create IR procedures. We could implement strong Wi-Fi. We could do backups. ICS safe testing
keep
methods.
in mind with the backups, backups is a per asset thing. And so that's going to give you the ability to, if you do get compromised, just like real life, if you have a backup on an asset, you can roll back to a previous restore point. So the backup, you have to create your backup procedures and policy. You have to create your backup plan first. Then you can start creating restore points on assets.
Okay, that's good to know. I'm going to go ahead and put a SIM in, just because I feel like, it's a foundational piece. MFA, SecOps, security awareness are all foundational, and security awareness costs 2 people, and we only have 1. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. End the turn. We got Base, aka Casey Gaska, in chat. He's got 40 minutes until his next meeting, so he's hanging out with us. Good to see you, Base. Congratulations to him and the team that did the Trace Labs CTF last week. Did really well. Trace Labs mission is really excellent. Okay, Clint. We're still rolling out 2FA. We finally selected our vendor. Now we're waiting for the hardware tokens to get mailed out to our different facilities. So it's going to take another day, okay?
So keep in mind that in game here, just like in real life, early low-hanging fruit tends to be your untrained users. Your users are the front line of defense. So things like user awareness training in the beginning here are going to help shore up defenses. That plus 2FA or MFA, it's listed as 2FA here, but that's going to help you shore up your defenses against early low-hanging fruit like social engineering attacks and campaigns. So just keep that in mind. I
agree 100%. Unfortunately, 2FA takes a while, and it's eating up our resources. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make strong Wi-Fi. I don't typically do that, but I'm wondering, hold on. I'm going to install a network security sensor. Okay, guys, I think it's important to get some awareness of potential compromises. So let's do that really quickly.
Yeah, and your network security sensors will give you an indicator that there's an attack happening, while only your endpoint protection, which also acts as a host-based detection, will alert you that an asset has been compromised.
Okay. That's good to know. And guys, I want to tell you, so you can drop network sensors in 4 different places. This is another learning opportunity. So if you think that you just stick a network sensor at the front door, like over where this firewall gateway is to capture everything, that's not necessarily true, because you can get in through terminal server. You could be on site and physically plug in, right? So having the idea that all traffic goes through the front door is an antiquated concept, and it's part of the reason why zero trust architecture is a thing today. So that's why in the simulation you can see that I have 4 options on where to drop this. Now, if it was a corporate network, I would probably put it over here around my corporate IT infrastructure stuff. But because I get paid to protect our services of pushing oil and gas to our, gas stations and vendors and stuff, I'm most concerned with right here in our PCS network segment. So let's give that the attention it deserves. Now, we've still used all our resources. Quick question, Clint. These guys light up when I hover over them. What does clicking on them do?
I didn't see your cursor. Where?
It's on the 3 people.
Right. So I think if you click on the money, that will automatically add request budget to your action queue. If you click on the staff, it will we ran out of time.
That's okay.
If you click on the staff, it will automatically request or add hire new staff to your queue.
Okay. Okay, so we've got network security sensor and 2FA. We're feeling good. As Clint mentioned earlier, security awareness is absolutely invaluable. Okay. And actually, for those of you who are taking the GRC course right now, I saw a couple of you say that you're doing it while hanging out with us in chat. I do a whole module on security awareness. It's literally so valuable to risk reduction at your organization. Doesn't get a lot of, prime time because it's not some cool technical control. But guys, to Clint's point earlier, you have thousands of end users in your environment, all with their own phones and maybe laptops, going to Starbucks, leaving things in Ubers, letting a random person carrying a ladder through a door. Like, you need all of those people to be educated. The scale of what you get from risk reduction by training your end users effectively is huge. So super important. Definitely going to do it in the simulator right now. Now, I've still got one resource, Clint, and I'm thinking of how to exercise it.
If I could make a suggestion.
Yep, go ahead.
So we're starting to take care of our social engineering low-hanging threats. I would either start thinking about physical security too. So we're starting to take care of our cyber low-hanging fruit. We need to start thinking about the physical too. So I would either start installing USB security on your critical devices, like your process control devices, like your engineering workstation, SCADA server, things like that. Or I would start to put in things that give you the biggest impact to physical security, like installing, I know you hate this, but installing video surveillance makes it harder for on-site intruders to continue to penetrate through the physical network. I know you think there's a disparity between the cost of physical security versus other things, which can be addressed, however, in development. But for now, you do have to think about your physical security, because whenever I was doing red teaming full time, we always successfully gained access to critical assets using physical penetration testing means. And that's still true to today. I mean, if you think about things like Stuxnet, and I hate to use the S word, but if you think about these things, go ahead and make your move, but while I talk, make a decision. But if you think about
I
these
will
things,
be installing video surveillance, and I'll explain my decision after you're done speaking.
Yeah, my last sentence was simply that, adversaries do the same things that we penetration testers do in terms of red teaming, and physical security is often overlooked.
So I decided to do the video surveillance, right? And it is incredibly expensive, which gives me pause to invest in it. But to Clint's point, instead of trying to secure each endpoint, if I can put a video surveillance around this whole thing, then the likelihood of a rogue USB being plugged in my mind, goes down a little lower, because the adversary never physically gets to the machine to put the USB drive in. It doesn't eliminate the risk, but it lowers the risk. Okay.
So
now,
go ahead. We have a couple questions from the audience that I would like.
I was just about to address those. Yeah. So Kyle asks, never seen an alert from a network sensor. How does that show up? Well, Kyle, remember, we put a SIM in place here, right? And the SIM unlocks the network security sensors. So imagine, if you will, we've got this really nice appliance plugged in line, and it's collecting all sorts of telemetry, maybe doing a little bit of insights, and all the raw data is being thrown to a SIM, right? And it might notify us and say, hey, we've seen some correlations of some weird behavior, like going to weird C2 traffics or seeing lateral movement, right? You really don't want to see east-west traffic between endpoints. So that could alert you, and then you get richer data from those network sensors in your SIM. So normally the audit logs that are coming out of like a regular firewall or something like that, it's good. But when you have like Zeek logs, you can get a much more focused on information security value telemetry into your SIM, so you can move faster and identify malicious traffic or anomalous traffic. And that's kind of what I think we're talking about here.
In game,
Well,
it'll show up as a red target. So in game, if in the simulation, if you have something that's been targeted by a network attack, it'll show up as a red kind of flashing target on the asset that's being targeted.
oh, good to know. Good to know. Yeah, don't worry, guys. Things are going to go sideways here. We're still in the honeymoon phase of our CISO job, so we haven't had to explain ourselves yet to the CEO.
Couple other good
Okay.
questions here. So we had, we had a LinkedIn user ask, is network segmentation or VLANs implementation possible in this simulation? Yes, and that is very important, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But network segmentation is possible in the game, and we will get to that. And then we also, this
hard
is
to do
great.
though in real life. Hard to do in real life.
Yeah, that's why we have to take our time here. But a great question is, can you install locks and on data jacks to prevent your rogue access points? We don't have that in the simulation at this time, but it is on our roadmap, because yes, that is a huge security control for preventing rogue access points.
Yep. Thanks, buddy, for the question. Also, Christopher is asking whether or not the physical security that we implemented, I think it was mostly around video surveillance, but does it encompass door lock systems as well? Is this what this install electronic locks is kind of targeting?
Yeah, that's basically putting in your keypad and so the key that's your electronic keypads instead of just a physical lock. But then when you move forward and do your install your physical 2FA, that's like your thumbprint plus your keypad or something, or your prox card plus keypad or something like that.
Nice. So our whole team is still working, so we just let the turn expire. We're celebrating our second week at Chevron Oil and Gas.
Okay. Chevron.
Yes.
Kevlon, maybe.
We'll have to come up with a fake name for our oil and gas company, Clint. All right, guys. Let's see what our team did. We've successfully deployed security awareness training. This team definitely took the GRC analyst training, definitely knocked out that module, and definitely delivered great security awareness value to the organization. So let's take a look at what we're doing. We're still on a flat network, which isn't good. Did our video surveillance system get deployed? That's still being done, so we could still have adversaries walking on our premise, and that's not good. Okay, so here's another thing I want to do. I find incredible value in vulnerability assessment. Guys, changing default creds. This happens sadly. SolarWinds 1, 2, 3, admin. This is a huge risk, especially on external facing systems. So we need to get our vulnerability assessment done. Another very high ticket item, but it's real. A vulnerability assessment program is a real thing. In fact, I would argue next to security operations, it might be the next, logical thing in the maturity of an information security program is vulnerability management. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Clint, thoughts?
Yeah, what order you do things depends on how open your network is and where you are at in the security and maturity of your program, of course. But you definitely want to start looking at your own vulnerabilities as soon as possible, so you can start patching holes and you start reducing that attack surface. But also important to look at is, at some point, to reduce that attack surface, we also need to segment our network. And another thing we need to look at is starting to get some visibility. We have a SIM and we're starting to deploy network sensors so we could see indicators of attacks. And keep in mind, we're a flat network. So right now, that one network sensor is going to have visibility over our entire network. Once we segment the network, we're going to have to place sensors in each network segment. But we do need to start getting some visibility on our critical assets. I would start installing our endpoint protection / host-based intrusion detection on our engineering workstation and HMIs as soon as
Okay.
possible.
These sensitive items over here.
Yeah, so that we can see if they get compromised.
Okay. All right, we can definitely do that. Let me look here. Do we need?
There's a toss-up, right? There's a toss-up between when you start monitoring versus when you start reducing your attack footprint, because you can start reducing your attack footprint. We have limited resources here, so if we start reducing our attack footprint, and you got 18 seconds, 17 seconds, what do you want to do there?
We were done. Like I've just been
Okay.
letting it
Oh, we have no
expire.
resources. Yeah. So like it's a toss up between it reducing your attack footprint. But while you're doing that, you may already still be compromised, or at the same time, you may be monitoring, but your attack footprint is so large to where you can monitor all day long, but you're still getting attacked because your attack footprint is so large. So you have to find a balance with your limited resources.
Absolutely. And that's why it's a job. That's why
Yep.
people get paid lots of money to be in charge of making those decisions, because it matters. Chidi asks, how is the game played? I don't quite get it. So Chidi, I don't know if you caught the beginning of the stream, but this is a cybersecurity simulation platform. You can play as the offensive team, red team, or you can play as the defensive team, the blue team, which is what I'm doing right now. I am playing the role of the Chief Information Security Officer and Security Operations team. Clint is the lead developer of this platform, so he's providing that rich context as I operate through the simulation.
It can be played.
Go ahead.
It can be played. Right now, we're playing against the computer AI, the computer opponent, but it can also be played against live people.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Yep. And it's basically turn-based. I have, just like real life, a set amount of money, a set amount of people, resources, and I've got a whole network to cover. So because I can't secure all the things, I have to make intelligent decisions. Now, I've got one human resource and I've got 2 more turns before my other 2 staff members free up. So let me look at beginning to secure assets. Let me see. Let's install endpoint security on our engineering workstation. Okay.
And just so everybody knows, what he's doing is there are 3 different ways he's taking actions, playing actions. He can click on an action tree, which is a hierarchy, which shows you all the things you can do. You can click on the assets themselves to see what you can do for that asset, or you can click on they're down at the bottom are what we call the quick actions, which is a quick categorical version of the action tree.
Nice. And it's broken out into the logical areas that we do as practitioners, right? So we've got architecture, GRC, SecOps, assessment actions, physical, PhysSec, and then getting more money in people. So that's GRC's function as well, typically. Okay. So now we've got another 1 person. We're still waiting 2 turns. We need to secure some stuff here, guys. Clint, again, not knowing. Well, hold on. Now, normally, Clint, I don't think about installing EDR on network devices like a firewall. And I see that we've done it here. Is that mapped to like industry practice? Like it's possible, but maybe it doesn't have the value that you would think, but because it's possible, you make it available?
It's a bit abstracted. So just due to the way the mechanics of the game work, think of endpoint protection on the firewall. Think of that as enabling, like if you have a firewall that's got, for example, Cisco has their firewall feature pack on routers and switches, but also firewalls have host-based intrusion detection packs that you can install them or whatever. It's a bit abstracted, but for now, in the end game, just know that if you want to do host-based intrusion detection system, you should install endpoint protection as that abstract concept onto the firewalls to see if it's got compromised. You got called out in chat. I see.
Yeah, Darcel. All right, you are right. I am a huge advocate of resilience. It's not cybersecurity, it's cyber resiliency. No backups. Okay, so this is another one of those philosophical choices. So, in my mind, Kevron has hired me to make sure that they continue to make oil and gas and continue to, basically make money. So, my focus and concern is operational uptime of the operational technology, the right side of this network diagram. While the left side is important and accounting is important and stuff like that, as far as backups go, if we get ransomware, I mean, it stinks. We can rebuild, but I'm more focused on making sure that the pipeline doesn't get blown up, or the engineering workstation doesn't get compromised from an integrity perspective. So that's kind of where I'm going. Whether it's right or wrong, I'm not 100% sure, but like traditional infrastructure or businesses, I'm much more focused on protecting that. Let me do a quick little thing here. I'm going to do endpoint security before my turn ends up. But Darcel, I do appreciate you calling out something that I have preached on Simply Cyber many times. Oh no, guys. Look at all these.
There's your vulnerability report.
Okay, guys. So so this is the reality.
Yeah.
Asset
And
out of
you just
service.
did the same mistake you did last time.
We have a problem. I didn't do a vulnerability scan. I did vulnerability. Oh, I did. Okay, listen. All these things are not a good sign. All these things have problems, right? Our terminal server is missing patches. Our wireless endpoint has default creds. Our gateway firewall is missing EDR, outdated firmware. So here's the reality, guys. This is why vulnerability management is its own thing. Yes, you can spend $40,000 and buy a Nessus scanner or a Rapid7 scanner or whatever, put it in place and scan your network, and there you go. You got visibility. But you cannot say you have vulnerability management. All you've done is inform yourself on where your vulnerabilities are. Now is the actual work begins. You need to prioritize and get funding and take action on remediating the vulnerabilities in a prioritized from a criticality perspective action. And this is why it's usually a full-time employee job to do vulnerability management. Now, we've got this, skull here. This isn't good. Let's reboot the asset. This is going to take one of our resources. We have to send Sally down to the plant to reboot this HMI field device. Big mistake by me. Let's see. We've got 2 people waiting to work. Let's go ahead and segment our network. Okay. Segmenting our network is going to allow us to further protect the OT ICS network segment, which is very important to me right now. Or at least that's the approach I've been taking. So let's do this. We need to request budget too. Like, we're almost out of money, guys. It's going to be more of a holiday dozen donuts than a holiday party this year, if the budget stays what it is. Welcome to OT. Yes, exactly.
So he asked, how do we avoid this in game? What specifically were you talking about, Kyle? Avoid what? Also, someone asked, are there any stats like on what each of these things gets you, like 20% prevention increase and things like that? We're releasing the new version of the game guide tomorrow, which or this week, which maybe not tomorrow, but this week, which does give you how much each how much each buff gives you. Now, that doesn't equate to real life necessarily, just in the simulation. But yes, there is a guide that tells you what each thing gets you.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kyle, I'm sorry, that was yeah. So then the other one was Kyle was asking, Welcome to OT. Yes, exactly. Now, I'm assuming, Kyle, that you were talking about the fact that we just
knocked us
DOSed our
over.
own PLC because we did a vulnerability scan. So keep in mind, when you do a vulnerability scan in real life against production systems, because of the active nature and the sensitive nature of a lot of control systems, you can knock over your own devices and cause disruptions in your production. Therefore, you need to implement safe in game. You need to implement safe or ICS safe testing procedures. What that equates to in real life is basically implementing processes and procedures so that you're doing more of a passive vulnerability scan, more hands-on manual scans, testing in a test and development environment, that sort of thing. Oops, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. He was echoing that. That's spot on. Me DOSing the HMI device, which just shows that my experience and background has been in healthcare, federal IT, the ICS space, a little less, but that's why I'm doing the simulation. Right, by doing the simulation, I'm actually learning instead of blowing up a real blowing up a real piece of operational technology. I do it in the safe confines of my environment. So, guys, as much as I hate having to do it, I've only got $2,000, right?
You need to
Things
request
cost
budget.
money. Yep. So I'm going to put on my suit and tie, put on my costume, and I'm going to walk over to the board of advisors. It's going to take me 3 turns to walk across the plant, go up into the office building, go up the elevator, go into the glass room, and then wait my turn for my 3 minutes where I can ask for
Well,
money.
you're preparing your presentation, you're preparing
Yep.
your analysis, so that's why it takes you 3 turns.
That's totally spot on. All right, let's go. I will tell you, if we get declined for budget, which is a reality, it might stink. It might stink. Okay, so we've got 0 people doing anything because we're still requesting budget and we're still segmenting our network. Guys, here's another fun fact. Network segmentation is a huge win. It's very hard. In my pantheon, I've been asked to make a video for this for a while and I haven't done it yet, but I'll just kind of tease it right now. In the pantheon of like most high value controls, as far as like managing risk, 2-factor authentication is up there. Security awareness is up there. Network segmentation is up there. PAM is up there. Okay, I'll just leave those 4 for now. PAM, privileged access management, is really hard to do well. Okay, because people want, I'm an IT guy. I know what I'm doing. Give me my access. When I make you a local admin on your box, you don't call me anymore to help install software, so I don't need to deal with you. There you go. You get permissions. PAM's really hard to do. Network segmentation is also really hard to do. Okay, when you start, the reason's the same, guys. When you put something in place that breaks operations because they can't install software on the PAM side or they can't access the file server on the network side because of network access, people are likely to open things up and completely compromise the whole point of having the control in the first place. So it's very difficult to roll out, but it has huge value. We talk about east-west lateral movement, finding the crown jewels. With network segmentation, you greatly reduce the likelihood that a threat actor is able to do that successfully. Security awareness a little bit easier to do. 2-factor authentication a little bit easier to do as well. So we're still putting our deck together. Clint, the PowerPoint's looking good. I'm sending it over to the engineering team to get their thoughts and feedback input. So we'll see what they come back with.
I think because we've done our vulnerability assessment and we have data to show them, we have a pretty good chance of getting approved for budget.
That's a great point. That is a great point.
And the simulation does work that way, by the way.
Yeah, it's a great point. Like if on day 1 you requested budget, I would hope that the game doesn't allow you to get budget because
it's harder. It's more difficult.
Yeah, no one. All right, we got network segmentation. Nobody goes into their boss's office after filling out the I-9 paperwork. And they're like, "Hey, I just want to introduce myself. Like, super excited to be here. By the way, I would love to request another 50 grand of budget." Okay, so we've got network segmentation. You can see it's color coded by our segments now, and we have firewalls in place, which is how you do it. We're feeling pretty good about ourselves. We've got 2 people. Still working on budget. So even though the money hasn't come in yet, let's see what we can do for $2,000 in one turn. We can encrypt network traffic for $0, enforce strong passwords for $0, strong Wi-Fi for $0. I like $0. We can do all of these default creds. Let's see where default creds are.
We should probably start looking at our process control network critical devices and start clearing up some of those vulnerabilities.
Yeah. And this is an interesting time to pivot, right? Because you could make the argument, implement strong Wi-Fi, keep those threat actors that are able to get on premise from or who can't get on premise from using like a Pringles can shotgun mic or shotgun antenna getting onto our property. Enforce strong passwords is good, but let's go ahead and look at default creds. These are the worst. Anybody can Google default creds, okay? Anyone can Google that. So let's focus on our oil and gas area since that's where we want to be. Our field device, I feel like, is really out there and at risk. So let's do that one. And then let's change the default creds on
the PLC, that AB 7900.
Yeah. So Clinton, educate me for a second here. What is this one and what is this one?
Well, I didn't see where you're pointing.
What is this AB 7900 asset and what is this Palo Alto field asset?
Yeah, so that's a switch. So and that and in real life that probably and that's just a name that was randomly generated. In real life, if you have an industrial switch out there, it's probably going to be something more like a Schweitzer or a Moxa, Phoenix Contact or something, as opposed to Palo Alto. But anyway, that's a switch. So the top one is a switch, the bottom one is a PLC.
Okay.
And then also, just FYI, anyway, we'll get into that later. If we have any OT buffs out there that say you don't just change your credentials on a PLC like that, I'll discuss that later.
Okay, so this is just a network switch as a network switch, right? Like this is IT. Okay, so this is the OT that we need to worry about, and the PLC is what controlling how much the plant is, like what temperature it's at, or
yeah, that's controlling your process. That's the thing that controls the process. So you want to secure your PLCs as much as possible right off the bat, and anything that has access to those PLCs.
Yeah. And I want to share a true story. So I worked in manufacturing, right? Which has a little bit of OT. Dude, we had a system that would vent. Well, it basically was responsible. Like the manufacturing process would create this acidic, dangerous, toxic air, and it would go through several layers of filtration and then release into the air, right through the smokestack thing. Pretty standard. But that is controlled through a PLC. Like the PLC tells you if the filters are dirty, how much, what the concentration of different elements and particles are in the gas in case you need to adjust it and stuff like that. So very serious stuff that's being controlled here. Okay, Clint, we got budget. Let's go. We're going to Vegas.
Told you.
All right. So we mitigated our vulnerability.
We got a $40,000 increase. That's pretty good.
I like it, guys. So what do? Do we invest it intelligently, or do we put it on red and try to double our money?
Do we invest it intelligently? No, let's just buy some stupid stuff.
Yeah, let's see what the current vendor is saying over at Black Hat. All right, so yes, exactly. Kyle Peters spent 2 seconds on Google, got Phoenix contact router defaults. Thank you, Kyle, for confirming our concern. Okay. So let us continue hardening our systems. Let's do some system hardening. HMI PCS. Hold on one second. Let me see if there's still default creds because that's really the grossest thing.
You can just click on the asset itself to see if.
I know, but I wanted to see, like, for me, default creds is really gross. So I want to do the risk analysis on how bad should I do this.
Yeah, and that's a good point. When you're in game, you can click on each individual asset to see what can be done on that asset. But if you want to do like what Gerry's doing and say, I want to see what all has default credentials, then you can click change default credentials, and then the green targets show you what devices need to have those changed.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this is just a switch, which I'm a little less concerned about now, because you'd have to get on our network and then be able to get into it. This DMZ wireless is a little concerning with default creds, since technically you could just get to it without being physically on site. So I'm going to change the default creds on that. I've got 2 people. Let's do this. Safe
45
testing methods, right?
seconds.
Safe testing methods, right? This is how you can scan ICS equipment without breaking it.
Yeah. So that's going to let you do a vulnerability scan without breaking it. And then the ICS vendor certification lets you patch process control devices
Okay.
and systems without
Well,
breaking it.
I'm gonna do both of those because I have played this game several times. The oil and gas refinery, which is not my strength, and I typically light the plant on fire. So I would not want to do that this time around.
Nicholas brings up a good point. It's going too well for our SOC. Where are the hackers? That's making me nervous too, because number one, oops, sorry. Number one, yeah, we don't really know what's going on because we don't have a lot of visibility other than one network sensor in one network segment, and we don't have a lot of. See, there you go, Lord. That's what I thought. If we don't have activity going on in our networks, they're probably going physical on site, and that's what's happening there. Thank goodness for the video surveillance.
Yep, and I've said it before on stream. If you watch me play this game, in real life, this video surveillance system cost $10,000, and it was a real expensive line item that really didn't. I was not happy as a CISO investing in. But the first time you catch someone on premise, the first time the control delivers on its value prop, you're like so thrilled that you have it. So I'm changing my mind. I'm going to go update my Yelp review for that company.
This should also be a warning. We know they're on site, which means they could have been dropping USB devices now, malicious USB devices in the perimeter. So we need to make sure our USB device security is up to date on our critical assets.
Okay. So when you say so here's one thing that I'm a little confused. The green, the purple, the red, the orange, those are all my facility, right? And the brown is remote facility.
The brown is out in the process environment. So
Okay.
basically stuff that's most likely not in a building. And if you don't count a plant as a building, not corporate, put it that way.
Okay, there's no actions here, which is confusing because I don't know why. Maybe I don't know why, but because I can't patch it because I don't have the ability to do it yet.
Look at the vulnerabilities there. What's on there? Weak password. Yeah, because a weak. The only way to correct weak passwords in this game is to enforce strong password policy. That's a policy wide change as opposed to a device wide change, and you're not going to be able to do anything with the strong password on the PLC itself right there. I mean, well, anyway, it's
Okay. I'm
the
gonna
game
deploy
isn't perfect
USB
in real life.
security. I'm gonna harden my engineer workstation, right? Because the engineer workstation is kind of the control center for all the PLCs and SCADA stuff, right?
Yeah, that's going to be your control room, mostly for SCADA, and you might have some test and development environment in there and stuff like that.
All right. Well, let's deploy USB security on it. Okay. Let's end this.
At this point, because we don't know whether or not a box got popped due to a USB or something like that when we didn't have protection on it, at this point, I'm starting to wonder if they're in there right now. So we don't necessarily, we can either, at this point, we can either deploy some endpoint protection, which is host-based intrusion detection, to see if we've been compromised, but we could also start just doing some threat hunting to see if we're compromised. So you can always do threat hunting on individual assets too to see if you've been compromised.
I know the analysis paralysis that I deal with as a CISO and as an end user in this is like it seems like doing threat hunting on one device out of 25 or 30 or out of an entire enterprise is like kind of a roll of the dice versus rolling out two-factor authentication or something like that where you're getting a value for an enterprise. All right, so we've done vendor patch certification, which means we can now patch those OT devices without bricking them, and we can test them to find out. So I intelligently chose both of these at the same time because to me, if you get one, it's useless. You need both for it to have value for you. We've also implemented USB security on the engineer workstation. There we go. There you go. That's a good question for you, Clint.
Yeah. So In the game, first of all, your advanced security training for the staff does not affect things like USB security or social engineering. That's going to allow you to do things further in the game, like do a vulnerability assessments without having to hire a contractor and things like that. So you can spend resources instead of money. Oh, my bad. That's 1.8, not 1.7. But so that's going to allow you to do things like crack ransomware encryption keys and stuff like that. But social engineering, or I'm sorry, um, user awareness training provides a huge boost to defense against malicious USB. And then once, if you have both user awareness training and secured USB or USB security, it becomes darn near impossible for a malicious USB to hit that asset.
Interesting. All right. Well, what's this right here? Vendor certification says. Can I click this?
We're at
The top, the new
um,
graphic.
I I don't think you can click that. That's just letting you know that you have that just lets you know that you have
Okay.
your
I can do
vendor, your
things.
patch certification from the vendor. I think that's active for 10 turns. And then that allows you to actually patch your OT devices
Well,
without detriment.
yeah. Let's strike while the iron's hot and patch our stuff. All right. Yes. Okay, guys. So we patched the engineering workstation and these two, well, this PLC and this HMI. What's the HMI's function, Clint?
The human machine interface is a computer terminal that sits in the control room that allows control room operators to view and control plant and process functionality. So
So
if the
very important.
HMI is compromised, that means whoever compromised it can see what's going on in the plant and possibly control that. This is a good
Okay.
question here. Somebody just asked, what's the 1% health up there at top? That is your threat intelligence score. And so every single time that we detect an intruder or do something that gives us a little bit of threat intelligence, that increases our threat intelligence score, which is a win condition in the game. When the threat intelligence score reaches 100%, then the red team operation is shut down and you win the game. But there are other things. So if you are compromised, you can do things like gather forensics evidence to increase your threat intelligence score.
Yeah. Thanks for the questions, Nicholas. Appreciate it. System patched. Nice job, guys. Okay. So this PLC is good, except it still has weak passwords. So, guys, I think we need to investigate strong passwords. It's one resource, it's one turn. It'll be able to continue to harden our OT. So I think it's valuable. Clint, question from a process perspective. If we don't create IR procedures, can we still activate a IR and just be
Yeah,
like
you
less
can.
effective?
Creating the procedures just makes your IR, your incident response more effective.
Yep. Got you. All right. Let's enforce strong passwords. We're still going to have two assets, two human resources, and 41 grand. So to Christopher Word's point, we are going to put some aside for the holiday party. Don't worry about that. It's going to be top shelf liquor this year. Okay. But we still have. It's only March. We still got a couple months. We got to protect the organization. So let's continue to see what we can do with these two resources.
Holiday party distractions are an actual inject during the for the IR tabletop version of this game.
That's awesome. Let's continue to patch these devices, and Clint, I'm considering endpoint security or USB security on the PCS recorder. What is the value of a PCS recorder?
That's weird. That's a weird host name. The historian. The historian records data and information transactions from the process. So this is probably not a transactional historian because I developed it and I know that. But so nothing can be controlled if the historian is compromised, but that gives the attacker visibility into the process control network.
Yeah, and it looks like Nazmul Hassan it works in the space. You know, he says if HMI compromises all are compromised, then he went on further to say ICSOT need to be patched and updated. So yeah, I mean, this is consistent with our strategy that we've approached for this particular version of the simulation of focusing on that. Christopher Word making a compelling case to leadership on why we need to request budget for a bigger holiday party. I'm thinking cruise around the harbor, Clint. Okay.
That's always a great idea, to get your cybersecurity budget for your cybersecurity and then embezzle it for like yachts and things like that for the holiday party, even if it
Super
is for
yacht.
the rest of the team. You know, it's morale. You know,
All right. Well, we got a couple of seconds here before the end of it. Let's look at this NIDS. I'm assuming this is our like a network intrusion detection system.
yeah. If those get knocked out or denied, then of course you don't have visibility.
Ooh, hold on. I'm going to change the default creds on. That was a quick crash decision, but default creds on the switch, probably not super important, but default creds is nauseating to me. All right, guys, we still got 41 grand. Let's go. Good news. Okay. Good. All right. So another day, another no compromise.
That we
Let's
know
see.
of.
Oh, I know it's tough to disprove a negative. Password policy created, and social engineering attacks are down. What did I do to do this? Maximum attack
So
against social.
milestones are rewards that you get for doing some proper procedures, proper things in order.
Oh, I
So
see.
you put all the proper stuff in place to prevent social engineering attacks.
Okay, that sounds good.
So yeah,
Okay,
right now we're at the
so
strongest social engineering posture that we can be.
okay, well, that's perfect. So that'll adjust our thinking as we move forward with 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 controls. Now, I like updating firmware. Typically, this is reserved for OTICS type stuff or network appliances. Endpoints don't typically get the firmware update. This is a server router over here. I don't think I want to. I don't want to spend the time on it, honestly. Someone who's getting in here at this point isn't updating the firmware. They're going to be moving laterally. So that's not, there's no real value right now to me for that. ICS monitoring, you can click on the question mark to find out what this actually means, right? And it provides visibility into compromised ICS assets. So if I click this, it sounds like if we do have a compromise, we will be made aware of it. So I'm going to go with it. It's 2 people. It's $8,000. It's a good value. Let's do it.
You bring up a good point, Gerry, and that when you have a limited budget, doing your risk assessment, in this case, when there's no in-game risk assessment, we are doing our risk assessment manually as we think about things. And you have a lot of vulnerabilities and there's a lot of things to worry about, but you have to figure out where you're going to spend your critical resources. And just as Gerry pointed out, fixing the router in the server network may not be important right now as fixing all of our critical process equipment.
Yeah. And I know it sounds weird to say like, oh, default creds on this or whatever, like not a priority, because it sounds like you don't care, but there's not everything is the top criticality, because if everything's the most important, then nothing is important, right? So you have to make those hard decisions. Again, this is why CISOs get paid a lot, why they have gray hair, and why they have a short shelf life, 18 to 24 months on average. It's a high stress job, and thankless also, I might add, from, in my opinion. Okay, so we've got one person left. We've got 30 seconds. We got 33 Gs. Let's look at hardening stuff. We got the engineer workstation. Install antivirus. We do have EDR on it already, so I think we're good, but I want to do threat hunting. I want to see if we got compromised here, okay? I feel like we don't, but let me look. Here we go. Let's see. Clint, don't know if you remember, but it's been a long time since you held that class in Sugar Hill, but this was my first official OT-ICS training, and it was awesome. Thanks, Wesley.
I think it was Sugarland. But yeah, nope, I remember. And I remember this was when we were doing early runs of the Red versus Blue platform in conjunction with our OT cybersecurity class that we held. Thanks for attending and thanks for your comments there.
Absolutely. And Nazmul is asking about the pipeline valve. I think that particular space, these are not they're not active elements of the environment. It's the controls of the pipelines that we focus on. Right, Clint?
Say that again.
The pipeline valve elements in our environment, we don't touch them, patch them,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
control because
no,
they're just
yeah,
devices.
those are just there to let you know if the process has been damaged or not, and yeah, we can't actively do anything to the physical. That's our field engineers putting in safety systems and whatnot. We, as the cybersecurity team, aren't going to deal with that.
Great example. Christopher Word with a real life war story, talking about working at a toll facility and shutting down 83 automated toll collection buildings. That is a significant impact to operations. And it happened by triggering critical alarms through the SCADA sensors. So that sounds like I was working there, Christopher, because I've played this game several times and I always knock over the SCADA stuff because I'm reckless with my scanners. So it's interesting. I do want to tease out, Christopher. Connect with me on LinkedIn if we're not. I think we are. Clint and I are musing about we're doing the Let's Play live streams like this, but we're also musing about having a weekly kind of war stories stream, just industry professionals talking to other industry professionals about the reality of what our job, our world really is, and some of those lessons learned. So connect with me if you want to share that story or others as we get stood up with that content idea.
You know, that anecdote right there, not that it's anecdotal, it's fact, I guess, but anyway, that story just illustrates what we're doing here in terms of the vulnerability scan without proper procedures.
Exactly. Clint, can you speak to, I'm sorry, yeah, Lee's comment here, Dr. Monshines?
So he asks, I searched the ThreatGEN website and was wondering if I missed a link to a community chat resource. So we have our Discord server there is a Discord link where you can communicate and chat with not only about the game, but there is a real cybersecurity chat in there as well. Is that what you're referring to?
Possibly. And I know we're just Dr. Munshine. I don't know if you're using Discord or not, but it's like a chat. It's like community forum type thing. Kind of think of back in the day when we had like not BBSs, but like forums. That's kind of what it is. We're actively building it out right now. There's been some discussion around: do we just make the invite open to the public, or do you have to be invite only? But if you excuse me, message me on LinkedIn, Dr. Munshine. I can get you a link to the Discord server just so you can get stood up on there and check it out.
The portal, our education portal, also has a community as well where you can discuss information like this within the members of the Red versus Blue community.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we've got ICS security monitoring, guys. Fingers crossed, because this is supposed to tell us if we have compromised assets in our environment. Let's hope for not. Okay, but let's also be, wearing our brown pants to work today. Okay, let's go that route. Okay, security monitoring and ICS specific threat monitoring have been implemented. Let's see. Okay.
Click on the PLC real quick. I want to see something. Yeah, so so it does appear, yeah, because there's nothing further you can do, which means we have our ICS monitoring enabled. It currently at least does appear that nothing in our process environment is compromised. Now, we don't know that for a fact because they could be using stealth techniques, but that's the way it looks. We can do threat hunting on devices to do a deeper inspection if we just really have this weird feeling that we might be compromised.
Okay. Well, here's what I would say as the CISO of this company. I now feel that I have, depending on what this engineering workstation looks like. Okay. I feel that I have got the OT section of my network in a place that I'm comfortable with. It could be better, but I'm comfortable. And now I have been neglecting, literally like gross negligence, the rest of my environment. And I want to go over here and look at some low hanging fruit and make sure that I'm doing the proper due care for my entire environment that I'm responsible for managing. Again, I feel like the OT/ICS stuff is at a level that I have a risk tolerance for. My appetite for risk is met with this. Now my risk appetite is blown out over here, and I need to address it. So that's what I'm going to do. Clint, I'm going to move forward with this decision, but do you have any thoughts about that strategy?
If it was me personally, I would look at those vulnerabilities that are currently on the engineering workstation, the HMI, and the SCADA server. I would look at those first to see what's there, and take care of those first. Like, look at the actual vulnerabilities. Click on the vulnerability shield on each of those. So that's, so you've got some vulnerabilities there. Those are all vulnerabilities that add to the attack surface. Should the adversary gain access to that area. Now here's an important thing to look at.
15
If
seconds.
if you restrict access to that area, we've got our social engineering pretty good. We've got our USB security pretty good, provided you've put USB security on everything.
Okay, hold on. I've got 6 seconds and 3 resources. I've got to do this. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay. Damn it. All right.
Did those, see if those actually went through? Look at your
2 of them did. 1 of them did not. Unfortunately. Okay, finish your thought.
I was going to say, if you have your perimeter and your low hanging fruit, so if you have your access vectors shored up around those assets, then maybe securing the vulnerabilities on each asset individually may not be important. So just there's something to think about. You don't have to fix every vulnerability in every device if you fix the access vectors to those devices.
Yep. Zero trust architecture. So I hear you. I did spend some time and resources over here. I'm thinking, I really, I don't know. It just makes me think that like I can just rip and replace my entire corporate environment as long as I'm continuing to pump oil and gas out. Yeah, no problem, Darcel. Let me see what that link is. There you go. There you go, Darcel. All right. So because Clint's here, I'll follow his guidance. But if it was just me, I'd be helping my corporate brethren. Just like look at this endpoint security on our firewall. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I need to know, Clint.
This is, yeah, of course. I would have done that early on too, because that's a perimeter to your whole company.
Yeah. Okay. So let me. What can I do here? System hardening. Okay, let's do that. All right. Okay. So we're still hardening our HMI, which is fine. Like I don't want action, but I'm happy. I'm happy that we're moving forward. There we go. Another loiterer caught. Get off my lawn. Okay, we see it went up 2%. Now, Clint, question: do I have to have 100 loiterers caught to get to 100%?
If that is your only sole means of threat intelligence, every time you do anything that catches someone, whether it's on site physically, in your cyber environment, whether you do threat hunting, anytime you discover anything, it increases your threat intelligence score at different variables based on the value of how you gathered it.
I see. Okay. Well, let's harden the firewall since now we're talking about detecting lateral movement. So we'll do that, and we'll do this again, strengthening our OT/ICS environment. Okay. Anytime there isn't a pop-up.
I'm trying to find the Discord link.
Yeah. Do you have it, or do you want me to get it?
I have it somewhere. I'll get it. You do what you're doing there, and I'll get it.
Okay, that sounds good.
It wasn't where I left it.
Okay, so let's see what we're doing on the action log. We've got our 3 people. Things have been kind of slow. I feel good about it. Holy crumb. New staff's 45,000. Even when we got new budget, we didn't have $45,000. Dude, okay. I have a question or a feature request, Clint. Listen, hiring new FTEs is hard, and you usually have to make a beg to the business and get all this stuff. Whereas hiring professional services, businesses will stroke a check. Can we have hire new staff and hire professional services, and the professional services resource disappears after like 5 turns or 10 turns or something that costs less money?
Well, we do have the roadmap meeting this afternoon. We can discuss that with the developers.
I feel like it's a reasonable option, right? You can have a full staff for the whole game, or you could pay a little less, but then it's a expiring resource.
Yeah, we do have options for that in the next rollout 1.8,
Okay.
in different ways, which when we do our next live stream for 1.8, we can explain how it works.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's do this. We're going to install endpoint on this firewall. So that should give us the visibility that we need for lateral movement, okay? We're going to install endpoint security or system hardening on this IDS. I'm going to install endpoint security so we can detect problems. And endpoint security there. Okay. I think I'm dropping it so we've got all the visibility. Yeah, exactly. Christopher Word knows what's going on. We could even have an option for apprentice, right? Or a summer intern, good for 6 turns.
Yep. By the way, there's the Discord link for anybody. There is an option for real world cybersecurity chat in our Discord, and also just chatting about the simulation, people playing the simulation. Oh, you went mute.
No, I know I went mute. I was talking off stream.
Oh.
Okay. So we've got our 3 people still. Nothing's pending. Everything's completed. We are looking good. Still got 26 turns. All right. So again, I feel we can patch this guy. We can harden this guy. We can patch this one. All right. So let's continue to harden that environment, even though it goes against what I was all about. Let's see. Oh, install AV or harden the system. Let's harden the system. Okay, guys, that's our 3 people's actions. We've got, at this point, our staff are more OT/ICS people forged in the fires of oil and gas than they are corporate IT InfoSec people. Awesome. Every turn that goes by that we don't get a pop-up makes me feel good. I am having a little anxiety about the potentials though, but all right, so we can update AV, deploy USB security, install AV, or let's go look over here. Let's look at our environment, guys. Default creds on the router and the corporate router. Well, backups would be good. VPN. Okay, so here's a couple things, guys. Here's what I'm thinking. We are well into our tenure at our information security job. We haven't had any problems yet except a couple loiterers, so we know that we're being targeted by some adversary or adversaries. We have some great technical solutions in place, but as we talked about the NIST cybersecurity framework earlier, early on, you want to get left of boom, right? Identify, protect. You want to put good things in place. But bad stuff happens. Right of boom is how we deal with that, right? We detect, then we respond, then we recover back to a known good state. Right now, I feel like our detection is good, but we haven't had to deal with response yet. And I'm starting to be worried that we're getting in the area where like it could happen, right? And how are we going to respond? And is it going to be useful? So I'm going to go ahead and create IR procedures to strengthen our incident response capability. Because as I'm thinking, and this happens in real life, your identify and protect get built up really well. Your detection goes next as far as like getting well, and then respond and recover. You're kind of left like, oh, like we'll just handle it when it comes. And unfortunately, you don't want to find out what your response capability is when you're dealing with an active incident. That is the worst time to find out how good it is. So let's go ahead and do that. Clint, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm nervous about why we're not seeing any compromises anywhere. I think we're either extremely lucky or they're there and we're not seeing it. I think we did a better job of shoring up things in the beginning than you did in the past. But yeah, we need to start preparing for incident response just in case. I would say get your incident response procedure shored up. Then let's start
Yep.
increasing our monitoring.
Yep. 100% with you. Let's see. How would we monitor? ICS monitoring's fine. This is fine. This is fine. I don't know if we can do any more for monitoring, honestly,
So
Clint.
do you have monitor? You have IR procedures. You put that in place.
I
Monitoring.
just did it.
You just need to start putting out endpoint visibility, which is your
Oh,
endpoint
I see.
protection. Yeah, just start putting out endpoint. Start with endpoint protection on your most critical devices first. That will let you know when things get compromised. Now, keep in mind, they can always deploy stealth. That
Yep.
makes it hard to see.
All right. Well, this is our terminal server that is grossly at risk. So let's do there. Okay.
Ooh, got it in just in time.
Yes. Kyle, if you come back and watch on replay, thanks for being with us. He had to run off to a meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle.
Yep. Okay, so we've got 2 turns. We're creating IR procedures. Let's continue to implement the type of stuff that will help us get visibility. Antivirus would be part of that, right, Clint? Helping us, or is this
Antivirus
a
doesn't help your visibility in game. It
okay?
helps prevent things like malware and ransomware if you have the right signatures, of course, if it's updated. But
Yep.
things that are going to increase your visibility is obviously putting your network sensors in the proper segments, as
Yep.
well as putting in your host-based detection, which is your endpoint protection, on your individual assets.
Okay. So let's look at our DC. Let's install endpoint security. Again, I like helping the corporate side now that I feel that I've raised the level of security of my ICSOT segment. So I'm going to add endpoint security over here. Our SIM, I'm going to install endpoint security because if our SIM gets taken out, guys, we have no visibility. Okay.
Yep.
Let's keep
How's
rolling.
my volume, everybody? Does this sound comparable? Since this is kind of a dry run, is my volume comparable to Jerry's? I think it looks okay in the meter.
Yeah, it sounds good to me,
Okay.
Clint, but I can't hear myself either, but that's okay. Actually, I do have my monitor feeding back. I just get used to it. Okay, guys, another day, another dollar. 29 days in of our 50-day engagement, and we're sitting pretty. We're looking pretty good. Let's get this email secure server fixed up. Because by the way, guys, thank you, Agonize, and Christopher. Guys, a lot of people don't think of email as a business mission critical asset or resource, and it absolutely is. Next time you do a tabletop, don't let anyone use the gal. Don't let anyone use their Outlook. Let's see how what kind of issues they run into. Because if you don't I don't know a lot of people's phone numbers because they're in my phone, right?
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of people's emails because they're in my Outlook.
Gone are the days where we memorize phone numbers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've got one person, and we're going to continue to deploy endpoint security. Although I will say, I feel like our change default creds. Okay, so I'm
And
going to
just
install endpoint. Yep, go
FYI,
ahead.
we're going to run over our hour that we had allotted. I have time to stay here. I think Jerry does. If we want to run over, we're only about halfway through this scenario.
Yeah, well, and it doesn't always take this long, but we're stopping, we're talking through our risk analysis, we're engaging chat and stuff. So I have a 2:00, so we're good. Let's see. Oh, good. Ayrton Chris Montenegro has been playing ThreatGEN Red versus Blue and been enjoying it. So really happy to hear that.
Cool. Glad you're enjoying it. Thanks for sharing.
Yep. We're going to be setting up the ability for head-to-heads and streaming on that and stuff like that. So look forward to that. Although no stream sniping. Okay, that would be unfair.
Yeah. Yeah. Just FYI, everybody, if you're playing the Steam version, we do have a discount right now going. It's on our website if you want to sign up for the pro version, and 1.8 drops tomorrow. We're still in early access on our portal, so that there's a discount there. And keep an eye out on our live streams, as well as Gerry's Simply Cyber stream, where he'll be dropping discounts and free access coupon or raffles and things like that.
Raffles. Yeah, actually, I might raffle off one on this Thursday, Simply Cyber live stream at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So look for that. All right, we got our IR procedures, so that's good. Now, from a perspective of the game, I don't need to refine any level of skill within my incident response, right? Like I have a SecOps team now, right?
Say that again.
I now have written IR procedures, but it's not a skill tree where I like have to learn
Correct.
mobile forensics or okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So let's keep going. I'm feeling pretty good, guys. I feel like you know what? To be honest, I'm talking about identify, protect, detect, respond. If I'm being true to my word, recover is the next one that we should shore up. So I am going to spend the money on backups because honestly, I really should be thorough. Before I do that really quick though, Clint, does security skills training refine my incident response capability?
No, not in this version of the game.
Okay.
And
well, then I'm going to do backups.
I might be wrong. It might provide a buff to your incident response. Mainly what it does, it gives you the ability to crack ransomware key and do some more advanced things if you need to.
Okay. Can you talk to, I'm going to choose system backups. And we have a question from chat from a LinkedIn user, Clint, if you want to pull it up.
So regarding network traffic encryption, option in game, is traffic now unencrypted, plain data, or setting encryption on? Adds a better encryption option. So what that does is when you implement network encryption in game, and I know in real life implementing network encryption is the device level and it's a lot more complex, but what it does in game is that it prevents leaking password information. So it prevents password attacks from being easier to the red team. And it's also going to, I believe, and I don't remember this, it may also prevent data exfiltration. I'll have to get back with you on that, and it's something we'll look into. I don't develop every aspect of the game, so some of the aspects like that I forgot the exact mechanics. But for example, if you have a strong password policy implemented, but yet someone sniffs your network and gets credentials, then it kind of negates the strong password policy because they've gotten your credentials anyway and crack those. I think that's how that works. And forgive me for, I know I'm the lead developer, but I actually, it's a complex backend. I don't know every single detail.
Perfect. So as you were answering that, time expired. I had a couple resources that I needed to use. So I strengthened the Wi-Fi just as a best practice. We're getting into the phase where like I can take care of the nice to haves instead of the absolute criticals. I also continue to do my backups, and then I updated the antivirus on my HMI. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at our stuff. This terminal server definitely needs to be patched and hardened because this is an external facing resource. Okay. Costs $0, so we're not going to need to ask for more budget. Let's keep going. All right, we got our backups, guys. So now we've got the entire NIST cybersecurity framework at least implemented in some capacity. Okay, good. So now let's look at our situation. We can do really nice things, right? We can do VPN for 5,000. We can encrypt that network traffic, which would be nice. SDLC, although I wouldn't really think of SDLC. Application vulnerabilities improves defense against command injections. Yeah. Okay. So SDLC looks like it's going to address a lot of vulnerabilities, like a lot. So there's a lot of value. Instead of hold on.
It
Instead of
doesn't fix
fixing,
them, but it helps buff your defense against them.
okay. Well, I'm still an advocate of the high value controls. Okay. So I'm going to do this for 5,000 unless I can think of something else to do. Like everything's pretty good. Like I'm feeling really good about where we are. We could do electronic locks, but we've already caught 2 loiterers on our property, so I feel like our physical security is pretty good. Okay. False sense of hope, right? Clint, it's the 30 guys that have come on prem, then we only caught 2. So, all right, let me end the turn.
I'm really worried about the fact that, oh, there you go. There's a
What?
compromise.
Okay. Okay. Compromised asset detected. Hey, I just want to thank me for making the focus go from ICSOT over to the corporate infrastructure, not being most negligent 4 turns ago. Congratulations, CISO.
I will
All
say,
right.
though, that compromising that email server doesn't have a direct benefit to protecting the ICS network and systems. However, if you do now that the email server is compromised, now they have credentials, so that could end up leading into an easier password or credential compromise in the ICS network. So to Gerry's point, that's why it's important not to just focus on one area. You do have to focus on critical assets throughout your network and understand that there are critical assets in your enterprise network that can end up possibly leading to an attack surface or an easier compromise in your ICS network.
Okay. Now, from a game perspective, I want to point this out. I need to activate IR now. And by the way, again, thank you to the CISO from 2 turns ago for creating IR procedures, having the forethought that a compromise may happen. I still have 1 resource. It costs 0 resources to activate IR. It takes a turn. So I'm going to do one thing just so I can put my analyst to work while I launch IR. Let's see. Our endpoints. So we're having an issue in this area. So we should probably tighten up this area. I'm gonna patch the DC. That seems like a really good idea. And then let's activate IR. Oops. Okay, IR is activated. Let's go, guys. By the way, if you're on chat right now and you've ever done SecOps work, once you get an alert like this, the game is afoot. Very high adrenaline dump. Let's go, Clint. I'm ready. IR is activated.
And when you're playing the game, the music changes. And if you go to like your, you can go to your view mode. It shows like the IR with the red screen and all that.
Yes, there we are. This is us.
You know, when you're playing this with the music, you hear the music change, and it's like dun 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 dun.
All right. So now that we have access to our IR functions, right? Let's figure out what we're going to do. And I haven't done this too much, so let me work through this in real time with you guys. Clean the asset, which I assume means, like quarantine the malware, run a scan, it says it's clean. You don't like basically rebuild the machine from scratch. Gather forensics to see what happened. Maybe you could develop IOCs to see if it's elsewhere in your environment. Replace the asset. You're guaranteed to get it clean. The way it got compromised might still exist, and then disconnect upstream connection. I'm not entirely sure what this means. Does this mean from the internet and C2 services, Clint, or does this mean like my organization doesn't have email anymore?
So disconnecting, yeah. So number one, in real life, would mean you don't have email. That doesn't have any effect in game right now. But as far as email goes, but disconnecting from the upstream connection is going to cut any remote C2 or any remote connection that the adversary has to that and prevents lateral movement.
Okay. So here's what I would do. I'm going to disconnect from upstream connection because this is the very first thing I want to do. This isn't an endpoint, right? Like if it was Clint's workstation, just replace it. I don't have time to deal with him. I need to focus on bigger fish. This is my email server. This is a hot problem. Okay, so I'm going to disconnect the upstream connection. I do want to gather forensics if I can on the next turn, and figure out how bad it is, but we do need to get it back in production. Okay, let's end the turn. Let's go. There we go. Okay. Upstream connection has been done. So now they are not able to connect, no persistence, anything like that. I'm going to gather forensics on it and then replace the asset.
There's a slight visual bug there that's fixed in 1.8. The network connection should have turned to gray, which it didn't, but that's okay.
Okay, it would be this one right here.
Yeah.
Okay. So the only reason you would ever disconnect this from upstream connection is if you were going to take forensics on it. If your plan was to replace the asset next turn, you wasted your time disconnecting it. Okay. Because you're effectively going to disconnect it upstream by taking it offline anyways. Okay. So it takes 2 turns to it takes
How
2
did
turns to
implement
gather.
SDLC fail?
I don't know. Maybe because I have IR
Oh,
enabled right now.
because you started that and then you went into IR mode, I think, before it was
Yep.
finished.
Yep. Okay. Couldn't have planned for that. All right. So what else can we do here? I'm going to clean the asset. Okay. Normally I would do forensics and then I would replace the asset. But because replacing the asset would finish before the forensics happens, my concern from the game simulation perspective is that it would screw up my forensics capture. So I'm going to do the clean the asset and hope that the forensics resolves before the clean asset turn resolves.
Yeah, it should be a proper stack to where it should give you your threat intelligence points before it's cleaned.
Okay, cool. Now we can also do threat hunting on some of these things too while we're here. So because this is compromised, I have concern that threat actor moved into my DC. So let's do threat hunting on that as well.
The difference between threat hunting, some people say, well, you can just install endpoint protection for the same as you can threat hunting. The difference is threat hunting doesn't cost you money, whereas endpoint protection does.
Yes. And threat hunting typically involves human analysis, whereas EDRs are good, but they make mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are.
Oh, okay. Oh, gather forensics is not done yet. And clean. Okay.
Yeah, it takes 2 turns. It doesn't mention anything about my threat hunting. Oh, good. Threat hunting on the DC succeeded. Didn't find anything. Let's continue to look. This is our Blue Mirror server. I don't know. Oh, it's our SIM. Let's look at the threat hunting on the SIM too. Make sure we're not compromised there.
That's an unintentional vendor brand plug. I guess so is Palo Alto and all that stuff.
Yeah. Kevron.
We got to, yeah, I think maybe, we actually own the domain Victim Corp.
Oh, okay. Oh, crap. I hope this stacked correctly.
It did.
Okay, good. Forensics evidence collected. Good. Threat intelligence score is increased. Very good. Look at this, 22% people. We could do this. Okay, so this is fine. Now, let me ask you this. Is it worth doing threat hunting on the asset we just cleaned to see if there's... it didn't address the full issue. It just addressed the symptoms.
I would say in game, if it looks clean right now, 1 turn after, it's probably not worth doing threat hunting. Also, I want to point out, notice your profit loss meter is ever so slightly lower now, due to the fact that, and you can't see what the percentage, but you can see it's ever so slightly because your email server is offline. So you are profit and loss also equates to production. So basically, it means part of your ability to do business is affected. That's why that meter has gone down a little bit.
Okay. Now, this is another question of game mechanic. So I need to reconnect my email server. So I'm going to do that. It takes 1 person, 1 turn.
Which is kind of ridiculous, but we're limited by game mechanics.
No, it's fine. I need to deactivate the IR, which is going to take a turn and take 0 people. So I'd like to do that. And then because I'm still in the IR mode, I wanted to spend my human resources doing something. So let's do this. And then
keep in mind that anything that you do IR mode has to take less than 1 turn if you're also going to deactivate. I think that's where you're going with this. If it takes 2 turns and you deactivate IR mode, it'll just cancel out that action that took more than 1 turn.
Exactly. So I'm going to do threat hunting on my share server and threat hunting on my router here. And the idea for me is that I'm basically looking at all of the assets that touch that email server because that email server was hot. Let's go. Crap. Okay. I'm going to have to start moving a little faster, Clint, just because we have a meeting at 2, but I actually have a contractor coming at 2, and I need to do something downstairs before that contractor gets here. All right, so we have a issue. So this machine is compromised. So let's put some stuff on it, and then activate IR. Okay, things that take 1 turn. Okay, and activate IR. Oh, cool. Probably should have done a restore point, given it's a file server, but there we go. IR mode activated. Very good. Let's gather forensics. Let's disconnect and then gather forensics.
Oh, I thought you got another I missed that part. I was looking away when we had another one compromised.
All right, so that's I went all in server. On
That's your SharePoint server. Oh, and it's overlapping UI bug.
Yeah. All right, so we're starting to get popped. We're starting to, be worried about it. So this thing is still there. Upstream connection's been done. We're gathering forensics and cleaning the assets, so that's fine. We've got 1 resource left to do something. So let's use it on threat hunting on this guy. The 1 item left in the network segment that we haven't done yet.
Me being on the OT side of the house, I'm happy that it's, that the compromises are sitting in your server network and my OT network is left alone.
Yep. Okay. Okay. So the thing has been cleaned. It's looking good. We're going to reconnect. Huh?
37% threat intelligence score.
Yep. We're doing awesome. We're going to reconnect that upstream connection, and we have to deactivate IR, which takes a turn. So we have to use our 2 people on IR type stuff. So let's do that. We'll do threat hunting up here, and we'll do threat hunting here. Okay. Blue team. Good. Very good. What is this? Missing AV. We can fix that. Oh, I have to. Oh, no. IR's down. All right. So let's install AV on this guy and go back down here at this mail server. We're going to put patches on it. And let's put patches on this too.
We're only 8 turns from a weather the storm win.
Yes. This is perfect, though.
What that means for those of you watching, weather the storm means we have outlasted the red team. And I think maybe the default, I think, is 75 turns. You must have it set in your settings as 50 turns. But basically, if we are able to hold off a red team victory for the when turns expire, then we win not all clear, but we win the weather the storm victory.
Mm-hmm. And now I'm just doing some threat hunting over here on the I'm really shoring up this area because it's clear that the threat actors are interested in this area, which is great. You can see we have nothing. We have no issues in the ICS environment, so that's tight.
Notice from a threat assessment perspective, we noticed earlier in the game that the adversary was taking a physical security route and was unable to get in thanks to the video surveillance, and it was a big part of that. And we don't know if they tried dropping any USBs, but they don't appear to be successful just due to the fact that we probably implemented our USB security, but they pivoted. Now, instead of going physical, now they found a way into the server network.
Mm-hmm. And because they're so noisy, because of our tooling, we have focused like the eye of Sauron all assets, all resources to the corporate network. So, you know, their butt is red. They're not happy about it. We're changing default creds. All right, I feel good. We're gonna update the firmware. So this is all tight over here. Let's get our terminal server, because they may actually begin to veer away from this because they're getting their butt handed to them here. So that, like you said, pivot, right? So let's install AV here.
And one thing we didn't do, so we didn't implement a VPN, which means if they were to actually land a social engineering campaign attack, it could be anywhere in the network. When you put in a VPN here in game, if you land a successful remote attack or social engineering attack, they're corralled into the DMZ.
Oh, that's perfect. Because we didn't do VPN, but we did get notified that our social engineering defense was way up. So
Yeah.
that's great for us. Endpoint security. This is perfect. Default creds. Let's put EDR on Clint's laptop. Nice job, Clint.
Yeah, I'm suspect. I'm always putting shady stuff on my laptop.
Sus. Okay.
I'm Carl.
Yeah, you are, Carl. Okay.
You can start saying Clint in your Simply Cyber chat if you want to,
I will.
so you don't offend Carl's.
Oh, I'm feeling good about this. Here. Let's harden this system. I don't want to do threat hunting there. All right, we really need to fix Clint's machine. I am feeling good about the storm, though. Yes. Yes. This is good. We're going to win, Clint.
Yep, I think we are.
Let's harden it. Let's harden it. Let's harden it. Here we go. Red team fail.
And there's usually a one turn. You'll have to finish your last turn before it's officially over.
Oh, that's okay. I'll put EDR on everything. Patch like we're supposed to.
I put EDM on everything.
I feel good. We just got a bonus. The holiday party's going to happen, Clint. Look at this. We absolutely dominated.
Look at that staff utilization.
Where is it?
At the bottom of the blue team's guide.
99%. That's right. I am a taskmaster. I will keep you busy if you work for me. Believe me.
If you look at the results, if you look at the results, you can see what we missed. Oh, look, they did have our historian compromised, but wasn't able to do anything with it. And there were still a lot of vulnerabilities we didn't discover.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. Look at this. So they got the email server. They got a network device. We don't know which one. Actually, that's it, Clint. They got the PCS recorder, but did not know what it was.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, well, because it doesn't give you control over anything, only visibility. So they knew about the PLCs that were in the historian, but they weren't able to get to them.
Nice.
At this FYI, if you look down there, this is the pro version. There's a save report button that you can click on that actually downloads all the actions and results and everything of the entire game so that you can analyze that later.
Yeah, let me see really quickly, because you can't. I'm sharing the screen here. Is it get ingested into something, or is it just the file itself?
We have a template we'll be releasing soon, so it'll get put into that template, so it'll analyze everything for you. However, in the meantime, it's a CSV format, which if you open it up in Excel, you can actually do an auto analysis using a tool in Excel, but you can also push those CSV reports into any other ingestion tool that you might have.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, we'll have to take a look at that. I'm looking at it right now. I don't think it'll show good on stream. So maybe when we release 1.8, we can add the report functionality to the end of the stream as well, Clint.
Right. And then the portal itself, the pro portal itself, actually does collect and show all the metrics that you saw on that in-game screen. If you go back to the go back button there, Gerry. So this is shown at the end of the game. In the pro portal, these analytics and metrics are all stored so you can show historical trends of your performance, your team's performance, etc.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks for hanging with us. Like I said, we'll probably be doing this Let's Play once a week. Different players, different analysis. Maybe playing as the red team next time. Hit follow or subscribe or whatever it is on the ThreatGEN YouTube channel if you want to be made aware when we're going live. Like I said, this should be weekly. We're going to be doing a war stories, which will be more of a traditional podcast with engineers and operators talking about true stories from operating in the environments, and also maybe like a weekly deep dive on industry topics. So there's going to be a lot of content coming out, not just Let's Play, but if you enjoyed it, hit like, tell people about it. We'll have a good time. Clint, thanks for being here. Genuinely appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next stream. Okay.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.